Established in 2014, the Mandela Washington Fellowship is celebrating its 10th anniversary in 2024 and has brought nearly 6,500 young leaders from every country in sub-Saharan Africa to the United States for academic and leadership training at 20 American universities. The fellows selected for this highly competitive program have proven record of accomplishing and promoting innovation and positive change in their organizations, institutions, or communities. Today, we introduce you to some extraordinary young African women who will share their experiences in the Washington Fellowship for Young African Leaders Initiative. Hello and welcome to Our Voices. I'm Oriani Tangishaka. Here with me is my co-host, Jeannie Niwa. Also, we are pleased to be joined in studio on set by two beautiful young African leaders who are participating in the program we will discuss today, which we will be discussing today. Meet Kulunia Roma Mandre and Angel Mbudia. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure to have you guys.
Thank you.
Welcome to Washington, D.C.
Thank you.
Today we're discussing the Mandela Fellowship, Washington Fellowship and the Young African Leaders Initiative, 10 years since its inception. Let's start by briefly getting to know you guys and tell the audience a little bit about yourself, where you are from, and a little bit about your experience.
Okay.
Let's start with you, Angel.
Yes, thank you so much for having us. I'm really excited to be in Washington, D.C. This is my second time. My name is Angel, as you just mentioned. I'm from Kenya. I am based in Nairobi. I am a youth policy advisor. My main work centers on youth advocacy in Kenya. And my academic background is in research and public policy and political science. Those are my areas of focus. And I was really looking forward to come to Washington, D.C. and experience the governance aspects of the United States. The United States is a big friend to Kenya, and to see exactly what areas Kenya and the U.S. have been leveraging in, and to see exactly how what feeds into that spirit between Kenya and the U.S. relations. It's been a relationship Kenya has had with the U.S. for over 60 years, and even now culminating with the Mandela Washington Fellowship, marking its 10th year and being part of this 10th cohort. Now, last year they were 6,500, but with us as alumni, it becomes 7,200. And Kenya has had about 40 fellows every year since then. So we have about 400 Mandela Washington Fellow alumni in Kenya. It's a huge network of young people doing amazing things across the country. I have been very active in my advocacy since I was a student leader in the University of Nairobi, and growing that into the continental space and our global space is such a privilege.
We can't wait to see you in the near future, because leadership sounds like it's really down your alley. So, what about you, Kulunia?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you today. I'm Kuluina from Madagascar. I work in the private sector. I work in an impact investment fund, so I'm the blended finance fund manager. What we do is that we finance and support SMEs and startups in Madagascar involved in biodiversity conservation and in local community development. We've been doing this for 6 years now, and so far we have financed and supported 30 companies in agriculture, renewable energy, in ecotourism, in waste management. So this experience has been very insightful for me in terms of how business works here in the United States, and also gave me a lot of network for the companies we're supporting. So we can link them with the American businesses, American investors and donors. So far it has been really great.
Great profile. Stay with us. We are very happy to have you here with us, ladies. Now, let's take a close look at the Mandela Washington Fellowship for the Young African Leaders Initiative, which just concludes its 3-day summit here in Washington, D.C. 10 years later, the United States flagship YALI initiative continues to welcome fellows from sub-Saharan Africa. VOA Phillips Alexius and Anthony Labruto report.
During the 3-day summit of the Mandela Washington Fellowship, young and emerging leaders from the African continent gathered in Washington, D.C. to network with each other.
Of an incredible alumni group as YALI Fellows. And everywhere I go, I'm just astounded, amazed at the entrepreneurship and the energy and the idealism and the can-do, amazing spirit of all of these YALI graduates. I hope that you will continue to remember the passion that brought you here and infuse it in all of the work that you're doing, no matter where that leads you over the course of your lifetime.
In the last decade, the United States has taken a more proactive stance in African continental investment through programs such as the U.S. Africa Development Foundation, USAID, and most recently the U.S. government initiative Prosper Africa. The program's latest initiative, launched in March, includes an e-trade platform that allows for instantaneous digital investment in African as well as U.S.-based sectors.
It gives access to African companies to 20,000 retail outlets in the U.S. that include Walmart, Target, Sam's Club, Costco. It's a very exciting development.
According to a 2023 report, Prosper Africa has now raised $2.1 billion in investment capital for African programs throughout the continent.
Sure. It is exciting to be here today to celebrate the first 10 years. And I think from the bipartisan support that we've seen in Congress, the longevity of this program, the high-level engagement that we've seen throughout the summits that we've had throughout the years, really does show how important this program is. And it really is something that invests in Africa's future. We look at the demographics and numbers and see how young Africa's population is and how important it is for us to engage with these young people.
The Mandela Washington Fellowship has given fellows a sense of agency in solving the problems that they see on the African continent.
And my interaction with other Africans and Americans have taught me that we are powerful, and young people, we do not have to underestimate ourselves.
For others, the program and concluding summit offers a greater perspective on how to best achieve their work.
For me, being a part of this leadership program means being able to tap into the skills that other fellow African young leaders have, being able to connect, being able to collaborate and work together, because I never foresaw for a day that where I would be like in a room full of other young African leaders.
So far, some 6,500 fellows between the ages of 25 and 35 have participated in the Mandela Washington Fellowship program since 2014. Anthony Labruto, VOA News, Washington.
Thanks to Phil and Anthony for that report. Well, Anthony also spoke to some of this year's participants, and here is what they had to say about the different sectors they represented. We have Satang Ndumbaya, a Gambian fellow, Victoria Ngishindevila, Namibian fellow, and we also have Serena Francis, a Nigerian fellow. Take a look, and we'll be right back on our Your Voice segment.
I am taking about bravery, I'm taking about commitment, I'm taking about respect for Africa. And this has been instilled in me from the institute that I was at in Bristol State University. And my interaction with other Africans and Americans have been like, we are powerful, and young people, we do not have to underestimate ourselves. So I'm going back with a lot of courage, a lot of confidence. Collaboration is something that I think especially we visited the town called Manhattan United States, and the way they develop their town in collaboration with other stakeholders, other businesses, make sure that the town actually exists. It's very extinguished.
It really works for you. You decide how far you would want to go. You are responsible for your growth, for your capacity, and how far you do with whatever is out there.
I love the energy with these young leaders and, African leaders that are coming up. Well, Kuluina and Angel, we want to hear about your experiences, exactly the process of getting where you are today here in Washington, because I'm sure a lot of people are looking at you and they're wondering, how was the application process? How did you even find out about this program? And they want to go step by step. Can we start with you, Angel?
I'm very active in the youth advocacy space, so I get to interact a lot with the civil society in Kenya. And the US is also a significant player in that environment as well. So the U.S. Embassy in Kenya has a lot of networking events throughout the year, like 4th of July celebrations. And as student leaders, I'd get invited. As a student leader, I would get invited for such networking events. And then I would interact with the staff of the U.S. Embassy, and they would talk to us about these opportunities that are available for young people. And this was a while back in 2016, 2018. And but before the time I could actually apply for this fellowship, it took me some time because I had to build on my experience. I had to have show that I have contributed to my community significantly, not just as a student, but even as largely into the community, even the youth sector as well, because I had served in the National Youth Council of Kenya. And I had also...
So these are the things you had to prove in the application?
Yes, in the application. Okay. And, you know, that takes time to build. So even when I applied for the first time, I applied in 2023. I went all the way to the interviews, but I did not get shortlisted for the fellowship.
Okay.
So
you didn't give up?
I was almost giving up, but I was like, okay, let me just... The best they can do is just say no, and that's okay. So I applied again this year, and I got a yes, and not just for the fellowship, but even to stay longer for the professional development experience. And I could say that it takes time to apply for the process. The applications open again sometimes mid of this month for the 2025 cohort. And there's about a 2 to 3 month window for the applications to be taken in. So I would really encourage young people across the continent to take their time, not to wait for the last minute to make the application, because maybe that's one of the things I did last year, waiting for the 2 days to the application, to the deadline to apply. And it's a very long process. There are essays that you have to fill out, 250 words about your experience, and you have to be very authentic, using very simple language. And now, even with the advent of AI, they're discouraging us from using AI. Just use your own words. Doesn't matter how grammatically aligned they are, just express yourself how best you feel. If you have been really contributing to the community meaningfully, it will show in the application. And then you'll have an opportunity to have an interview where you can also express what you do, which is also very competitive, I would say. Kenya received about 6,000 applications this year. And from 6,000, they had to shortlist all the way to, I think, 100 for the interviews, and then 50 for the shortlisting to come to DC. So we have 44 of us who came to the US across different parts of Kenya. And I like even the gender equity in the room. You can see that the selection is carefully done to ensure that they are there.
I'm sorry,
50%.
Let me jump in, because we understand that, you know, you get to the program within the network by going to the embassy. Is that the same story with you, Angel?
Yes. Well, mine is quite different, but the U.S. Embassy is also very active in Madagascar, and they are organizing a lot of networking sessions. The Yali network is very active in Madagascar. There's a bunch of young people doing things together all the time. But I heard about this program 7 years ago because my sister was actually a fellow, Mandela Washington Fellow of 2017. So she went through the whole process. I've learned about the program then, but I was underage to apply at that time. I did the regional Yali program in South Africa. So I was part of this, and this is also my second time applying. The process is long and quite challenging, but preparation is key. You also need to share your story with other people and try to ask people to challenge your how you present your story, how you do your storytelling. So for us, it took 7 months from beginning to end to the end of the process. So we need to go through the application form first, where they ask you about your job, your work, your commitment to the communities, what are you doing in your current work, and also how are you going to apply what you will learn here when you're going to be back in your country. So that's the first part, and the essay was the biggest part of the application form. And then we needed to go through, in Madagascar, there were 600 of us that applied, so 0 less in Kenya's number. There were 11 of us selected to participate in the program. We needed to go through the interview at the US Embassy, where they are challenging you about your work, what you wrote in the essay. So quite challenging process, but it can be done with preparation and with also help of people around you.
That's amazing. So it sounds like networking, as well as being consistent and being firm and just move forward with it, because, you know, as they said, it's not an easy process, but you do it in advance and you continue to network. That's awesome. Well, that's time for a quick break right now. And when we return, we'll continue our discussion with these YALI fellows from Madagascar and Kenya. They will have tips for young Africans who may be interested in participating in this prestigious U.S. government program for young Africans. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. But before that, we ask you to share your thoughts on this program that aims to empower young African leaders. Share this on our social media platforms at VOA Africa. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Our hashtag is VOA Our Voices. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
You're watching VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. Thank you so much for joining us each week right here on Red Carpet. We bring you the latest in
You are with Our Voices. Welcome back. We are discussing the United States government Mandela Washington Fellowship program that empowers future African leaders 10 years later. This program aims to help young Africans journey to effective leadership and gain the tools needed to impact their communities. Here in the studio with us to discuss this is Kuluna Ramaromande, fellow from Madagascar, and Angel Mbutia, a fellow from Kenya.
That's right, that's right. We're so privileged to have you, and I'm sure people on the continent, young people on the continent, want to hear what you have to say in terms of what your experiences are. But I want to shift the focus on leadership. Let's begin with you, Kuluina. What do you think is an effective leader on the continent? What would he or she look like?
Well, that's a tough question, because I think there is a lot of angle to take that question. But for me, a good leader, especially in the African continent, is someone that has a clear and good vision, is inspiring to others too, because you need to bring people around you. You need to create a movement around you. Someone that is someone who is optimistic, because you need a lot of optimism and perseverance to work in the African continent, and someone who is very comfortable with change, because that's what we need now. We need to change. We need to swift mindset. There will be a lot of resistance to that, but we need to be resilient. We need to be comfortable with the people resisting what we want to implement. So yeah, if I need to summarize in 3 words, someone with a clear and good vision, someone who is willing to change, and someone who is inspiring for the others.
Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, and it comes to me at a very interesting time when we are having the protests in Kenya, and we are seeing the young generation, the Gen Zs, coming out and calling out their leaders. And one thing that I have taken away from that process is that a good leader has to be empathetic. What we saw in Kenya was very sad to see young people protesting with just water bottles and smartphones, coming out in the streets peacefully protesting, and then police officers were unleashed on them, and 50 of them were shot dead just because they were asking their government for better standards of living, a better country. And I believe that every generation has a call of its time, and our call today is to ensure that we are able to call out our leaders and ensure that what we are paying taxes for is delivered. When we're talking about applying for Mandela Washington Fellowship, and you need logistics, you need a device, you need data. There are countries, there are young people who have no access to digital infrastructure, and that means that they have no access to such opportunities. And what does that lead us, or where does that leave us? So it is time that young people really stood out or got out of their comfort zone, got out of their X and Facebook handles, and go out and actually be active in their communities, and where their leaders are not being effective enough, they should stand in the gap. This is our continent. We have to be very deliberate about how we want to see it move and how we want to see it grow. We have to be very serious about it. It's about time. We're in the 21st century. We are going into a 4th industrial revolution. It is time young people got out of their comfort zone.
Right. So you mentioned mindset also earlier. Do you think this program changed your mindset in any way?
It definitely did for me, because we are quite isolated in the island of Madagascar. We're not very connected to the other African countries or to the European or American continent. So it broadened my vision. It showed me the possibilities of working together, of creating regional partnership, of creating partnership with the United States or with other countries. So it definitely changed my mindset of going more toward the world, going out of your comfort zone, as Angel said, trying to see what is happening elsewhere, and not just being focused on what is happening in the island. So yes.
That makes sense. You might be growing from a local level leader to a global leader. So that's a good point. Now, Kulwina, can you maybe tell us, now that you're becoming, leaders, you're already leaders in your own capacities, but you're growing to become maybe a broader level leader, as you're saying, in your country, maybe on a global stage. What are young African leaders' challenges once you become a leader, or once you're becoming a leader? What are some of the challenges you're seeing for African young leaders?
For African young leaders in particular, I already talked about this, but the resistance to change, because we went through all of the 6 weeks process plus these 4 weeks of professional development experience. People from our country didn't, and our team did not go through all of that. So once we will go back to our country, we will need to face that kind of resistance, the mindset that is still there. But we need to implement it step by step. We need to keep the momentum. So that is one of the big challenge, I think. Also, a lot of a challenge inherent into Africa. Corruption, the mindset of people there. If we have the willingness to do good, I think it still can be done, but it's going to be challenging.
Challenge.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm so fired up. I can't wait to go back home and contribute to the conversation in Kenya. And I think two of the biggest challenges I'm seeing right now is the intergenerational conflict. Like she mentioned, we need to have leaders that are open to changes and are open to giving young people a seat at the table. And the other thing I'm saying is that we've championed for education, and even the US government as a significant partner to Kenya funding education. So Kenya has so many educated young people, but they do not have jobs. So we need to open up the space more. We need to be able to give them an opportunity to create their own jobs, to create their own opportunities, to have access to freedoms and rights that they require. It's not like what I've been seeing here. I'm so inspired that if you have a degree, you have access to opportunities. But back home, I see that you can work so hard, get a degree, get a master's, get even a PhD, and still you have no meaning in society. And that's very, very, very wrong.
But it's also to them to create the jobs, because one of the things is that maybe some depend on the government too much.
Yeah, when you talk about taxes and an environment that does not allow them to be able to set pace, I think there's a lot to do in all stakeholders.
Well, that's our show for today. We want to thank our fellows, Kulunia and Angel, from Kenya and from Madagascar, for being with us. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. It was an absolute pleasure. We wish you all the best for the future. Well, be sure to watch our voices on the VOA website at voa.com and our YouTube channel, where you can catch up on the latest episode and the top news stories from around the globe. Last but not least, thanks to our editorial and production team on our voices. On behalf of Voice of America, thank you all. Next time, thank you.